first drawing was brought to a school counselor by a 6-year-old named Abby. The picture depicted a tall tree with a grotesque, human-like face etched into its trunk. Its mouth was wide, jagged, and lined with sharp teeth. Below the tree were tiny stick-figure children, all standing in a circle, holding hands. Abby had scribbled the words, "It's always watching," in red crayon across the top. When asked about her drawing, Abby explained in a sing-song voice, "That's Mr. Smiley. He lives in the woods behind my house. He talks to me every night before bed." The counselor, curious but slightly uneasy, probed further. Abby revealed that Mr. Smiley didn't just talk to her. He asked her to bring him new friends. Abby's parents dismissed her story as an overactive imagination, but strange things began happening in their small town. Local children would disappear overnight, leaving behind nothing but muddy footprints leading toward the woods. Abby's mother grew concerned when she found more drawings of Mr. Smiley hidden under her daughter's bed. Some were even more detailed. They showed children entering the woods, but none ever coming back out. In one picture, Abby had drawn herself standing next to Mr. Smiley, his branch-like arm draped over her shoulder. One night, her mother decided to confront her. "Abby, what's with all these drawings? Why do you keep saying you talked to Mr. Smiley?" Abby's innocent demeanor dropped. She whispered, "Mr. Smiley doesn't like grown-ups asking questions. You should stop." The next morning, Abby and her mother were gone. The house was eerily quiet except for the faint rustle of leaves outside the window. The townspeople searched the woods for days but found no trace of them. On the edge of the forest, however, was a massive tree with a chillingly familiar face carved into its trunk. Its jagged mouth seemed to stretch wider now, as if grinning. Around its base were small handprints in the dirt, arranged in a perfect circle. Years later, a new family moved into the house. Their youngest son came home from school with a drawing of a tall tree with a face, holding hands with stick-figure children. 8-year-old Liam handed his teacher a crumpled drawing during art class. It showed a black and white figure of a girl with hollow eyes and tangled hair. She was standing in front of a mirror, but her reflection was smiling while the real girl looked terrified. "She's my friend," Liam said casually. The teacher asked about the girl, but Liam shrugged. "She doesn't like it when I talk about her." At home, Liam's mother found more drawings hidden in his desk. One showed the same girl crawling out of the mirror, her hands stretching toward Liam as he slept. Another showed her standing over his bed, with the words, "She's coming closer," scrawled in shaky handwriting. His mother grew worried and decided to remove the mirror from his room. That night, Liam screamed so loudly it woke the entire house. When his mother rushed in, he was sitting upright in bed, staring at the blank spot on the wall where the mirror had been. "She's mad," he whimpered. "She said you can't hide me." Desperate, his mother reached out to a child psychologist who advised her to encourage Liam to express his feelings through art. Over the next week, his drawings became more frantic. The girl was no longer confined to the mirror. She was in every corner of the house. One drawing showed her standing behind his mother, her bony hands reaching for her throat. One evening, Liam's mother decided to burn the drawings, hoping it would stop his obsession. As the papers curled and blackened in the fireplace, the lights in the house flickered. Liam began screaming uncontrollably. "She's here! She's here!" The last thing his mother remembered before everything went dark was a cold, skeletal hand gripping her shoulder. The police found Liam alone in the house the next day. He was sitting in front of the burned-out fireplace, clutching a piece of broken glass. On the back of the glass, someone had scratched the words, "You can't take him from me." No one knows what happened to Liam's mother, but Liam's new foster family reports that he still refuses to look into mirrors. He says she's always waiting on the other side. The last drawing came from a boy named Charlie, who had been unusually quiet for weeks. When his teacher pressed him to share his art project, he reluctantly handed over a sheet of paper. It showed a tall, shadowy figure standing at the foot of a bed. The bed was empty, but in the corner of the room, a child was hiding, peeking out with wide, terrified eyes. Above the figure were the words, "He doesn't like when you see him." When asked who the shadow was, Charlie hesitated. "He's my friend," he said quietly, "but only at night." Charlie's parents dismissed the drawing as a nightmare, but they couldn't ignore the strange events that followed. Every night, they'd hear faint whispers coming from Charlie's room. When they checked on him, he'd be sitting up in bed, staring at the corner where the shadow figure had been in his drawing. "He's watching me," Charlie would say, his voice flat and emotionless. One morning, they found a new drawing taped to their bedroom door. It showed the shadow standing between them as they slept. Beneath it were the words, "He's closer now." Terrified, they installed cameras in Charlie's room. That night, they watched the live feed as Charlie slept. Around 3 a.m., the camera began glitching. When the feed stabilized, Charlie was no longer in his bed. Instead, he was standing in the corner, his face turned toward the camera, but his eyes unnaturally wide and vacant. The shadowy figure loomed behind him, its elongated arms resting on Charlie's shoulders. The parents rushed into his room, but it was empty. The only thing left was a new drawing on the bed, the shadow figure standing alone in an empty house. Beneath it were the words, "He took us where you can't follow." To this day, the house remains abandoned. Some say you can still hear whispers at night, and if you look closely in the windows, you might see a shadow moving where no one should be.